one and all. Makkal Nalan is back to you with the Health Talk Series 2 for the day. And this is just like we say DJ, RJ, this is CJ, Zoom jockey for you, Dr. Roshan Rai, the moderator for the day. Dr. Roshan here for you. And the speakers for the day are Dr. Kavita Kalaivani, consultant who's going to on pediatric ophthalmology. We'll give more details about the bio of the speakers as the lecture starts. So Dr. Kavita Kalaivani, who's going to be talking about ophthalmology, eye tips for us, for the public. And for the ENT, Dr. Vijay Krishnan is going to talk about save your hearing. And Dr. Jyotsna is going to talk about skin and sun for us. Okay. So over to the first speaker for the day, Dr. Kavita Kalaivani, to tell about Madam. Just a small intro about Madam, and then we go into the lecture. Madam is presently working as a senior consultant in the Department of Pediatric Ophthalmology and Neuro-Ophthalmology of Shankar Nethralaya, a unit of Medical Research Foundation. And she has qualified from Madurai Medical College in the year 1999. And she has done a diploma in ophthalmology from Madurai Medical College in 2002. And she has done a fellowship training in pediatric ophthalmology and strabismus. Strabismus na Tamil வந்து மார்க்கன் அப்படி சொல்லுவாங்க, ஸ்குவிண்ட் அப்படி சொல்லுவாங்க colloquial termல. For the public to know about it. She is a very big expert in that. And pediatric ophthalmology na குழந்தைகள் கண் மருத்துவம் இதுல வந்து அவங்க ஸ்பெஷலைஸ்ட் for 2 years. And she's still working in Shankar Nethralaya as an pediatric neuro-ophthalmology, adult strabismus, surgical management of nerve palsies, and trauma cataract management in children and adult cataract surgeries. Over to Dr. Kavita Kalaivani, madam. The floor is yours for you, and you can take over, madam.
Thank you, Dr. Roshan. I take this opportunity to thank you to include me in this talk. It's always good to talk to the general public rather than talking among your own people. So thank you for that experience.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
So I'm going to make it as simple and as easy to follow as possible. So some eye care, most of which probably we all know and we keep hearing. So coming from an ophthalmologist, probably it will have more value. So how are our eyes important in day-to-day life? So eyes, as we all know, serve as one of our very important senses called the vision. They help us see the world around us, and also the world sees us through our eyes. And imagine being without that. So it's our responsibility to protect them throughout our lives. So generally, when it comes to any health issues, there are always this older myths and misunderstandings, most of which probably would have come with some kind of a scientific knowledge, but over the years, it comes only the myths remain and the scientific background and knowledge doesn't stay. So for small things that we keep hearing from people is, breast milk, castor oil for eye problems. Squint is considered luck, so it should not be treated. TVs are so blamed for the past. Now I feel mobiles have taken some blame compared to the TV now, but otherwise gadgets and TVs cause eye problems. That is a very common misunderstanding. Carrots cure power problems. That is again, carrots are good for eye health, but there is always a misunderstanding from parents that it cures eye problems. Wearing glasses regularly makes eyes weak. It's sometimes parents feel that if you wear glasses all the time, you are kind of addicted to them. And eye surgeries generally people have a fear for eye surgeries. They think eye surgeries means it may be dangerous. So through this talk, I'm going to just try to clear some of these myths and misunderstandings. So how do we take care of eyes at each stage in life? So let's start with very young children. So how are young eyes taken care of? So children and their eyes. Childhood is very precious with respect to eye development. So lots of conditions become permanent if not treated in the very young age. The age called plasticity, the age of neuroplasticity, it is called from birth to about 6 to 7 years of eyes, 7 years of birth. Anything for any development, it is very crucial. Eyes are part of a neuro development. So vision development and any problems which are present in that age, if not treated or noticed, can actually lead to permanent eye problems. And children may not complain of eye problems. There is again a challenge that we have to pick up the eye problems that children may present with. They don't complain about it. Eye problems in childhood can affect general health development as well, like studying difficulty, communication skills. Everything is very much linked to eye development. So how do we care for child's eyes? So first, as parents and elders at home, simple observation. When you see a child, eyes are the first thing that attracts to anyone, right? So the size of the eyes or color of the eyes, if there is any difference, which will be striking. Position of the eyes, which is commonly called squint or crossed eyes, that has to be striking. Squeezing, constantly rubbing of eyes. These are signs and symptoms that should alert parents and elders at home to seek an advice. So early consultation, whenever there is a doubt. Sometimes parents say that if they have noticed an eye problem, they think it is children can be too young. No age is too young to have a eye consultation. Whenever there is a doubt, whenever anything is noticed which is not normal or abnormal, you have to have a consultation. Eye checkups can be done as early as newborns at any age. Cooperation is not required. Avoiding harmful environment, like if you're a working mother or if you're sitting at home and a small baby is crawling, you have to make sure the environment where the baby is there is not harmful. For instance, keeping sharp objects, moving around in dust and all those things, general safety and especially eye safety. Nutrition, of course, a balanced, healthy nutrition is essential for all development and as well as eye development. So how do we care for child's eyes? When to consult? Like I said, whenever there is a doubt, you have to consult. But alert when all premature babies, when children are born, not born at full term. When we say that entire 10 months of pregnancy is not complete, some children are born a little early. 90% of the time, they are advised by their pediatric care doctors to have an eye consultation. But if otherwise, they have to be having an eye checkup. Babies with other health issues. Sometimes babies may have major health issues, and eyes should also be having a thorough checkup when there is a doubt. And like I said, any age is the right age. So better to have, and ideally as a recommendation, even if your child or a baby does not seem to have an eye, that every child should have a complete eye examination around the age of 3, just before entering the school. So that picks up most of the early problems which needs treatment and which can be treated at that age. So when it comes to older children, how do we care for eyes at home? So face and eye wash as soon as they come home. They come by dust and everything. So it's a general good habit, not just because of Corona, to have a good face wash and eye wash as soon as we come home. If they need glasses, better to wear glasses for all eye related activities, even if it's at home, because some children have the habit of removing glasses when they come home. That is fine, but for all eye related activities, better to use glasses. And whenever you're studying, the parents probably will keep on telling a good lighting, a good posture, and good comfortable aeration is very important while studying. Television, of course, there is no strict no to television, but definitely you have to obey a restricted time, a good distance, and a very healthy erect posture is always good for eyes as well. Good nutrition, good hydration, and we cannot overstate the importance of a good sleep for eye health. And compulsory physical exercises and sunlight exposure is supposed to have a very important role in the development and care of the eyes. So parents and children have to ensure at any age that a physical exercise and especially sunlight exposure is balanced with a lot of indoor activities. And school, the second important thing that children are exposed to is the school atmosphere. So how do you take care of eyes at school? Like I said, wearing glasses if indicated at all times in school. Refraining from handling and frequent rubbing of eyes in school. Ensuring a good lighting in the classrooms. Most of the schools in cities and most of the classes are, we should ensure as parents keep checking on how the child's class environment is. Eye screening tests, or most of the schools have this facility and they keep checking, but it is as parents' responsibility when the teachers communicate about the test results, because we see sometimes parents come saying 1 year back the school screening test showed that the child is not doing well and all. So these screening tests they're making an effort to do a screening test because some of the eye problems are not complained by children. So that is why screening test, it should be taken seriously by the parents and taken necessary steps. And like I said, interaction with teachers, like for studies, they keep regular interaction. For any other issues also, because teachers are the first interaction that the children face, and many of the eye problems are actually picked up by the teachers. So that interaction is very, very important. And like children, whenever they are together and whenever they are in an atmosphere without elders care, then they are prone for injury. So you have to be very aware of it, and schools should be children friendly. And now the new concept of this era is online classes, right? So online classes and eyes, how does that link? So like I said, when it is, if at all, if possible, larger gadgets like desktops and laptops are recommended. Strictly no mobile phones. So if you, the only option for online classes is the mobile phone in the family, I suggest the parents should take it seriously to the school authorities, or try to get a simple small gadget, at least a tab or something for a class if the child has to sit for 2-3 hours at a stretch. And ideal position is chair, table with a straight back. And if glasses are being used, you have to wear glasses for your classes. A good distance from the screen, neither too close and not too far. Consciously frequent blinking. So this is very important for any intense eye related activity, especially when you're sitting and watching a monitor. Ideal times, we notice that it is 30 to 40 minutes, but there should be a 10-minute break between two sessions. And optimal illumination, there should not be, you should not be sitting in a very dark room and sitting with a bright monitor. So the monitor lighting should be sufficient, that it is not a glare, and there should be a sufficient room illumination also. So these are the very important points you have to note when, because you have to face this. Online classes are for another 6 months or so, it's going to happen. So we have to be prepared and make it a healthy experience. So when it comes to older adults, how do we take care of adults' eyes? So depending on your profession, what is your profession, computer based or not? Now, whether computer based or not, most of us are ending up using a lot of gadgets. So how to take care of eyes? If you are an outdoor person and you have a lot of outdoor activities, sunglasses are a very good, sunglasses are not just a cosmetic attachment. They are actually supposed to be worn whenever you're outdoors now, even if it is not summer. They protect your eyes. And if you use contact lenses or spectacles, you have to have care for it all the time. It should be well-fitting frames. The power should be correct all the time. And contact lenses, there are strict don'ts which you have to follow. And if you are a person who uses makeups, eye makeups, it's compulsory that you have to remove them before you go to sleep. And the regular eye exams, even if we are adults and even if we don't assume that we have any problems, we feel that eyes are normal, it is advisable to have an yearly or once in 2 years eye exams, even if in adulthood. And of course, a good general health goes hand in hand with eye health as well. And old is gold, right? So how do we take care of eyes when we reach old age? So do our eyes also get old? So I shouldn't say 40 is old, but yes, the eyes start experiencing some issues as part of growing. So reading glasses, for most of us, we start requiring reading glasses after we cross the age of 40, which is normal growing up. It's not a disease, it's not a problem, you don't have to panic. And as we cross 40 to 50, 50 to 50 plus, cataract and glaucoma. Glaucoma is a disease, but cataract is a defect, which invariably everybody gets cataract after the age of 40. And eye problems can be associated as part of health problems like diabetes, hypertension, all those start after the age of 50 or 60. So eye problems can be part of that. We have to be aware. A good control of the health issues go hand in hand with eye care as well. And again, we cannot overstress the importance of regular eye examination at least once in a year. So we see some very few common eye problems like red eyes. What are red eyes commonly indicate? So commonest in childhood at least would be allergy. The symptoms being itchy and watery eyes. Allergies are usually more chronic and they can have a seasonal variation. At home, the best remedies could be just ice cold compresses with ice and ice packs on the lids, protective glasses if they're going outdoors, and medications only after you consult. You cannot go to a medical shop and order medicines for allergy. Like infection, how do you differentiate? Both have red eyes and itchy and watery eyes, but infection may have pain and discharge and sticky eyes. And infections are more acute. And infections in the eyes, like it's commonly called Madras eye, it can spread. It can be very contagious. So isolation and self-hygiene is very, very important. And you have to consult if vision is blurry. 1 or 2 days, if there is a mild discharge and pain, you don't have to worry. But more than that, if there is any other associated symptom like blurred vision, a consultation is mandatory. And squint eyes, like I said, cross eyes, it's a very common condition in any age, but childhood, it is very common. And it is not normal at any age. Like I said, it is a myth. Olden days, probably it was considered a myth and considered that no treatment is required because it was always seen as a stigma. When treatment was not an option or people did not know how to treat it, just to make these children get accepted into the family and accepted into the society, probably the elders said it is a luck. But now with good facilities and this, and squint is a treatable condition and it has to be treated. So any age you have a problem of squint, it is not normal and it needs specialized consultation, and most of the time it is treatable. And what about power problem like spectacles? Is this bad to have a power problem? But actually commonest eye problem of childhood is, and I keep telling parents when they get so depressed to have a glass prescription for a child, that it is the simplest eye problem you can have. So like I said, any age, but childhood it is more common. And it is not a disease, it is a defect. It is treatable, but not curable in childhood. What are the options for power problems? Spectacles is the commonest option, simplest option, safest option. And when you prescribe spectacles, you have to make sure it is well-fitting, lightweight, comfortable, and always clean. And contact lenses for older children is a very good option if worn with correct indications and correct do's and don'ts. Cataract, like I said, what is cataract? Everyone gets them. If you cross a certain age, everyone gets cataract. No need to panic. Like I said, it's part of growing or aging. And the experienced commonest symptom is worsening of vision. And early symptoms could be glare and driving problems. So what to do for cataract? If early, then we try combination of glasses. And there are no drops for treating cataracts. There are no tablets for treating cataracts. The only treatment is surgery, and there is no need to fear cataract surgeries if you have to get to do it. And like I said, eyes and body are very intrinsically connected. So how? Health and eye. So diabetes and blood pressure can affect eyes. So if you have diabetes or blood pressure, your eye checkups become really mandatory. Similarly, some thyroid problems, autoimmune problems, like you have systemically, I mean, your general body has allergy issues. Those can affect eye problems. Some kind of nerve problems can affect eyes. And medicines and eye, many allergy medicines, over the counter, or sometimes you have a chronic health allergy, the prescription would be steroids. So steroids can affect eyes also. Steroids can cause cataracts in eyes and glaucoma in eyes. So when you have been prescribed a chronic medication, it is mandatory to consult your physician regarding the side effects and check the other specialty problems as accordingly. Some antibiotics even can cause eye problems. Medications for TB, rheumatoid arthritis, some heart medications can cause eye problems. So you have to be aware and beware of side effects. So that is why never self-medicate yourself. A few words on eye injuries. So first is when you have an injury, the don'ts. What are the don'ts? So you should not wash the eye if you don't know what injured your eye. There should be no rubbing, no bandaging by yourself, no self-medication. And what is the do's? Protect the eye with goggles or some glasses or some loose patch. Nothing to press the eye, and rush to a nearby eye hospital. And digital eye strain. So that is actually like a modern disease. What are the symptoms? So any person or any child exposed to gadgets for a longer period can have this mild to severe forms of the symptom. So you can start with eye pain and headaches, blurry vision. Common is dry eyes and watery eyes, neck and shoulder pain if you are constantly hunching, increased light sensitivity. You have difficulty in focusing bright lights and difficulty to concentrate. So how to treat this? If you require glasses, a correct eye power correction is the first step. And there is something called ergonomics of how to use a gadget sensibly and effectively. So that you need to follow how to sit, position, lighting, etc. Anti-glare screens help to some extent. Frequent breaks is mandatory. And there is nothing like minimizing screen time as much as possible. So does age and gadget any connection? Is there like a no strict age criteria? Yes. So no age is immune to the effects of gadgets. And digital eye strain, like I said, has become a disease. So what are the safe limits? Is there a safe limit? So for us, an ophthalmologist, there is a recommendation that less than 4 years of age, no electronic gadgets, that is near electronic gadgets, no mobile, no tabs, nothing. And after, around 2, maybe you can have a little TV, but preferably no gadgets before the age of 4. 4 to 8, less than 2 hours of gadgets, and 8 to 10, 2 to 4s. So above 10, it depends on nowadays classes and all are there, but ideal time for children is maximum of 4 hours of gadget at any age. So coming to the current COVID and the eye, is there any connection? What do we have to look for? So frequent hand wash for any other precaution. Similarly, never touch your eye whenever you're outside the house, and frequent hand wash. And COVID can cause conjunctivitis like Madras eye-like symptoms, but it's not been reported as the first symptom. So you don't have to worry that if you have conjunctivitis but no other problem, you don't have to think about COVID at all. And do not ignore any sudden vision loss or an injury because of COVID fear. Most of the eye hospitals are functioning and they take care of eye emergencies. So just because of COVID outside, please do not ignore if you have a sudden vision problem. So to summarize, eye care is a continuous process. Regular eye exams for all once a year, whatever age, and eye health is directly linked to our general health. And do not use over-the-counter medications and never ever self-treat yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. That was a very comprehensive and very good lecture on eye care tips for the public. Even we crossed a little bit of 5 minutes, but it was worth the time. Thank you very much, madam. Thank you. Fantastic. And we will take the questions in the Q&A session. I'll take the chat. In the chat box, participants can use the chat box to put their questions, any queries. We can take it in the Q&A session. So we are going to the next speaker for the day. That's Dr. Vijay Krishnan. To tell about Dr. Vijay Krishnan, he is the head of the department of ENT, sleep, mainly the snoring department and sleep disorder department of Madras ENT Foundation, Research Foundation. And he is the head of the department of that part of the thing. Just a second. To tell more about Dr. Vijay Krishnan.
Madras ENT Research Foundation, Chennai. That's it.
Yeah. Just a second. He is one of the scientific advisory committee member of the World Sleep Society. And he is the founder, secretary of the Indian Association of Surgeons for Sleep Apnea and Indian Academy of Otorhinolaryngology, Head and Neck Surgery. He has demonstrated various surgical procedures for OSAS in many national and international live surgical and cadaveric workshops. He has many publications in major national and international journals, has presented papers, and has been in the invited faculty in several national and international conferences to his credit. He is the editor board reviewer of various international journals. And one more thing I have to tell, he's a man of few words. His action speaks more louder than his words. And he's a very fantastic ENT consultant. And I personally interacted with him, and we do a lot of work together. And these are speakers we are having on forum who has extreme knowledge on their field, experts like Kavita Madam, Dr. Jyotsna, or Dr. Vijay Krishnan. So you are very fortunate to have these people here. So try to use the best of them in the chat box during the Q&A session. So for example, if you have to meet Dr. Kavita Madam, it takes minimum 3 hours to go and have a consult with her for my children and come back. So that much busy person she is, okay? She has spent her time for us today. So the same way applies to Dr. Vijay also. So they are very humble and humility is their forte. So over to Dr. Vijay.
Good morning, one and all. Thank you very much, Dr. Roshan, for the introduction. So without wasting time, today I'm discussing and sharing few tips to save your hearing. So we all know hearing is one of the 5 special senses in our body. But fortunately, it has 2 functions. One is hearing and balance. So when a sound is produced, just to understand what is hearing, so when the sound is converted into sound waves and when it vibrates the eardrum, you can see, so the sound is being transmitted through 3 small bones in the body, which are in millimeters in size, conducts the sound into the inner ear. So the inner ear is snail-shaped structure here you can see. which is the main organ of hearing and balance, which has millions of cells, which converts this mechanical energy into an electrical energy, which is transmitted through the cochlear nerve into the brain and converts this sound as a sensible sound. And the brain processes it to make it understand whether the sound is by your mother or your father or your teacher. All those emotions attached to that sound all are because of your brain. So with that small introduction, I'm going to share with you some 5 important things to take care during this session. The most common thing is earwax. It is not a, it is a common substance present in the ear. It's like a sweating and saliva secretion. It traps hair, dust, dead skin, etc., so that the bacteria or fungus won't develop, the insects won't enter into the ear. It is a normal substance in the ear. If it is in excess, we may have to remove it. Otherwise, we don't have to. It is like sweating. Somebody sweats a lot, somebody may not sweat at all. So like somebody will have a lot of wax, some may not. So you should not use earbuds. So putting an earbud into the canal will further push the wax deep inside and causes ear pain by injuring the eardrum and your hearing part. So never use earbuds. That will make your children also to understand that using earbud is normal, and they will themselves will start using it and it will injure their ear. Simple way is to clean the ear under microscope with a suction. Simply we can clean the ear wax. So number 2, hearing to loud music. This is very common nowadays, especially in a cinema theater, mall or pub. Wherever you go, there are a lot of heavy bass music, which is really dangerous to our hearing. As a rule of thumb, you should use only 60% of your maximum volume for 60 minutes a day. Louder the volume, if you're going to keep it 75% or 90%, reduce the duration, maybe 45 minutes or 30 minutes a day. And if you're going to keep it in a maximum volume, you can hear only 5 minutes a day. So this can cause sometimes a temporary hearing loss or a permanent hearing loss. So they will be feeling some ringing or a hissing noise in the ear, or difficulty in understanding the speech in a noisy environment, or sometimes some ear block kind of feeling, or you may be keeping the volume of the TV or radio higher. So these are the signs of hearing loss, and sometimes it is irreversible and you may end up in using a hearing aid, which is easily preventable. So number 3, ototoxic drugs. So there are so many drugs available over the counter which can slowly reduce your quality of hearing. So stop self-medication, and whenever you have a hearing loss, inform your physician, whomever, when they are prescribing any medicine, tell them that you are already having a hearing loss so that they can avoid some drugs hearing loss. Sometimes it may be unavoidable where you may have to use those kind of medicines. In that situation, you have to weigh the pros and cons of either situation, and you may have to take it. Number 4, we are surrounded by electromagnetic waves and radiation without our knowledge. Simple devices like even a mobile cordless phone, mobile phone, Wi-Fi router, TV, radio, microwave oven, etc., you can name it and you have it. So all these produce electromagnetic waves. We are surrounded by, especially in the flats, the surrounding nearby flats, they will be having a router. We have a router. So we are actually surrounded by a lot of electromagnetic waves, which can cause headache, earache, and feel of unfeeling unwellness, and cause of cancer. But it is unavoidable in this situation because it is helpful for us to easily communicate. And sometimes it is actually, ideally, it is to be used in emergency purpose when you are carrying, when you are outside where you can't use a landline. It is ideally to be used, but we are using it for many purpose and it is nowadays it has become part and parcel of our life. You can see everybody is having, almost 75 million of people are having using mobile phones in our country, more than that. And ideally, a pregnant woman should not use mobile phone for a certain period of duration, and especially at night we see mobile and reply especially should not do in a dark room. That's what more important. It should be well lit, as our ophthalmologist clearly said. The brightness of the screen should not be more than the surrounding. That you have to make sure. As I told you, it can cause electromagnetic waves which can affect your ear and even inside the brain. You can see the image here. There is no exposure to harmful phone radiation after 15 minutes of a phone call. How warmth and heat it has generated inside the soft tissue. This is what is going to cause permanent hearing loss. So this excessive smartphone use in children and teenage group, even in elderly age group, alters the brain chemicals, which contributes to symptoms like depression, anxiety, irritability, and decrease the quality of life. Even it has ended up with diverse hunched shoulders because of constantly we are texting, with the neck bend, postural issues, insomnia, not feeling fresh when you get up in the morning, and vision problems. So all this can happen. The last but not the least is the consanguineous marriage. That means marriage within the family members, especially Tamil soluna mama ponnu atta ponnu and the mati. So if you see this map, this is very common, especially in South India and in Northern Africa and Arabian countries. So this is one of the preventable congenital hearing loss. There are various causes for congenital hearing loss, but one thing which can easily preventable is this consanguineous marriage, which can make the child not able to hear since birth. And when they are not able to hear, they will not be able to speak. So we are going to produce a deaf mute. So which can be treated. Nowadays we do cochlear implant surgery, which puts an electrode into the inner ear, as I told you, the snail-like structure like this, which converts the sound waves into electrical energy, which is the actual function of the ear. So this electrical stimulation can be done and make the child to hear. Even this surgery can be done at the age of 1 year, so that stimulates the brain to understand the sound waves, thereby the child can speak. So another important thing, like sudden visual loss, sudden sensorineural hearing loss, it is like a heart attack for the ear. This can be, most commonly it is unexplained, or we can't say why it happened. Most common reason is an autoimmune, that is our own body's immune system acts against our ear and causes a rapid loss or maybe a slow hearing loss over a few days. It should be treated at the earliest, maybe within 24 hours to 48 hours. You may feel like ear block when you get up in the morning. It could be because of simple cold, allergic cold, or just because of wax. Sometimes you could have done like this, so that would have pushed the wax inside. But at the same time, even because we see a lot of patients who are thinking that it is because of wax, because of cold, and land up very late, and it would have caused a permanent or irreversible hearing loss. So the take-home message: avoid using earbuds. Use earplugs when you are exposed to loud noise. When you are using headphones or earphones, keep the volume low. Reduce the number of hours of usage. Avoid auto drugs and avoid self-medication. Reduce duration of each call and limit to 10 calls per day. Maximum allowed limit is 16 minutes per day. So if you're going to talk 1 minute per call, you can make 15 to 16 calls, maybe even 20 calls. But if you're going to make one call itself 5 minutes, then you can make only 3 calls per day. That is the permissible limit. So you have to take care of that aspect. Avoid consanguineous marriage, which can prevent deaf mute. Good sleep and less tension and stress will improve the hearing. Regularly check your hearing whenever you have some hearing issues. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. That was a very crisp, and content was fantastic content, and the visuals what you showed was really awesome. Thank you, Dr. Vijay, once again. And to the public, I would like to tell that Madras ENT Foundation was the first in our India to do cochlear implant for children. So they are the first in India to do cochlear implant for children, and they are one of the pioneers in the world in doing this cochlear implant for children. So now I would also like to thank Mr. Srinivasan, who is a financial advisor who is taking a lot of pains in the back end for getting the audiovisual contents ready among the speakers and all those things. Thank you, Mr. Srinivasan. He's a financial advisor, a good friend of mine. I would like to introduce him at this forum now. And also Mr. Jay Prakash, who's at the back end working on the mute coordination and all those things for us. Thank you, Mr. Jay Prakash. And now I would like to introduce the next speaker for the day, Dr. Josna. And just a minute. Dr. Josna Dasaraju is a dermatologist and cosmetologist running Curves Cosmetic Clinic at Saligramam. She has enriched experience of more than 10 years in the field of dermatology and cosmetology. Her expertise are in laser treatment, skin whitening, anti-aging procedures like Botox and fillers. And to tell about Josna, I have not much interacted with Madam, but her husband is a fantastic plastic surgeon. He's a very good friend of mine, Dr. Vinod, who also is part of our cosmetic clinic, Curves Cosmetic and Plastic Surgery also. There are a lot of plastic surgery work done in that place. And he's also part of Vijaya Hospital. So I know him from my UG days. And over to Madam, and I'll share the screen for Madam for the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Roshan, for your kind words. And thanks for the wonderful talks, Dr. Kavita ma'am and Dr. Vijay Krishnan sir. They were very enlightening. And today my topic is the skin and the sun. So I would like to keep the talk very brisk and short. So sun, yeah. Is it a friend or foe to the skin? The next slide, please, sir. Yes. So
not audible.
Participants, keep it on mute mode, please. Your audio. Participants, yes. Please be on mute mode. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sun. Is it a friend or foe to us? So while there are many benefits of sun exposure to the skin, like it increases the vitamin D synthesis, it is a treatment for many skin-related diseases like psoriasis, vitiligo, many eczemas, jaundice, and all. It has its own set of side effects which we get because of overexposure to the sun. Next slide, please, sir. So sun, there are many sun-related skin problems which we happen to see very commonly in day-to-day life. Like it causes skin tan, it causes freckles and dark spots, and even on long-term exposure to sun for a very long duration, it causes even premature aging of the skin. Like the skin starts looking thick and dark with wrinkles and pigmented more on the exposed regions. And one of the major short-term factors of sun exposure is sunburn. So sunburns happen when there is short-term overexposure to sun, especially over the areas where there is a reflection of sun manifold, like seaside, when you enter the pools, or even sand or snowy regions. When the UV rays, when they hit the ground, they again get reflected back and again hit your skin back. So the exposure risk is manifold rather than single exposure when you're in near surfaces like beach, sand, snow, or water surfaces. So these are the times when you need to be extra careful.
Excuse me, audio is not audible.
Is it clear now, sir?
I am not. For me, it's audible. I don't know.
Sir.
Yeah.
Okay. It's clear.
It's clear. It's clear.
Okay.
You can proceed. You can proceed. Yeah.
You can
Okay,
keep the mic
so-
little nearer to your.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. So yeah, so I just now spoke about sunburns, which happens instantly. And the main symptoms of sunburns would be redness, itching, roughness in the skin. You see many eruptions, like just like prickly heat, how you see. And this is most common on exposed areas, like your face, neck, and outer regions, the outer aspects of your forearms and feet. Okay. And apart from all these, there is also factor of sun exposure in increasing the risk of skin cancers, but that is very rare in our tropical countries. It is seen in mostly skin of whites, and that too in very old age. So it does not cause skin cancers, but it is one of the aggravating or risk factors for skin cancers. Yes, sir. Next slide, please. Yes, sir. So how to protect skin from the sun? Okay. So the first thing is like you have to wear a wide UV protective sunglass, which helps your periorbital region and also from your eyes from UV exposure. And along with this, a wide brim hat or umbrella, which has good coverage of your head and neck, will always be helpful in decreasing the exposure to your skin. And the gold standard treatment for any sun-related conditions or even the preventing agents for reducing skin damage from sun are our sunscreen products. Okay, and along with this, sun protective clothing. So there is even a UPF factor for clothes, just like how you get a SPF for your sunscreen. There is a term called UPF for your clothes, which tells you the effectiveness of it from stopping your UV penetration to reduce damage to your skin. Next slide, please. Yeah. Next slide, please.
This one or this one?
The next one. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. Now coming to sunscreens. Always, so if we see the electromagnetic spectrum of UV rays, there are many kinds of UV rays like UVA, B, and C, and only UVA and B rays can enter the Earth's atmosphere. UVC rays are totally absorbed by the ozone layer and they never reach the Earth's atmosphere. So an ideal sunscreen should cover both UVA and UVB range. So when you always look for buying a sunscreen, just check if it is a broad spectrum sunscreen. Broad spectrum in the sense it blocks both the UVA and UVB rays. So UVA rays are mainly responsible for tanning, aging, and wrinkles, while UVB rays are mostly responsible for sunburns. So an ideal sunscreen should protect from both UVA and UVB rays, which is called a broad spectrum sunscreen. And in countries like India, any product with SPF 30 and above should be ideal enough for giving good protection. So now coming to SPF, SPF indicates the effectiveness of a sunscreen product in blocking the UVB rays. So say if a sunscreen has SPF 30, the risk of, it says that the risk of UVB exposure to your skin is 1/30th fraction, that is only 3%, and it is 97% protective. In the same sense, sunscreen of SPF 50 is 98% protective, and the sunscreen with SPF 100 and above is 99% protective. So SPF 30 to 50 or 100 doesn't make much difference. So anything with or above SPF 30 should be ideal enough. And there are also many types of sunscreen like physical sunscreens, which just coat your skin, but that does not have any active ingredients which enter into your skin or coat your cells. Okay, so physical sunscreens are safe for children, where there are no chemical penetration of sunscreen into the skin at all. It coats the skin and it scatters and reflects the sun rays away. So it is safe for people with like infants and very young children, and also for people with sensitive skin who does not want any chemical exposure. Physical sunscreens are very safe. And then we have chemical sunscreen, which enters into the skin and it protects from UVB exposure. And nowadays, the best sunscreen is a combination of both physical and chemical ingredients. So they are also called as combination sunscreens, which has both chemical and physical factors. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, sir. Yeah. And coming to the most important factor, how much sunscreen to apply? Ideally, we always under apply a sunscreen. Like sunscreen should always be applied liberally to get the stated amount of sun protection factor on the pack. Okay. So If you see in the picture, if you take a sunscreen of nozzle around 5 mm diameter, if you squeeze the sunscreen on your finger, your index or middle finger, one full finger length of sunscreen should be sufficient enough for application on your entire face and upper neck. So you have to take one full finger length of sunscreen to cover your face and neck. This is the ideal quantity of sunscreen to get a good protection. And for covering your hands and arms, you need 2 fingers of sunscreen. And for covering your trunk, front and back, you need 3 fingerful lengths of sunscreen. And for your thighs and legs, you need 4. This is the ideal quantity of sunscreen. Next slide, please, sir. Yes, sir. Next slide.
Yeah.
And how to apply your sunscreen. It's not that you have to apply sunscreen only. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not that you have to apply sunscreen only when you're stepping out. You have to apply sunscreen even when you're indoors, even on a cloudy day, even during winters, because UVA rays can penetrate clouds. They can penetrate your windows, your car window shields, or anywhere else. So sunscreen must be applied even when you're indoors from dawn to dusk. When you're stepping out, you should not apply it immediately before you do that. You have to apply at least 15 to 20 minutes before you step out, and reapply after every 2 to 3 hours to get the ideal protection. Okay, sir. Next slide. And yeah, so I was talking about sun protective clothing. So clothes in some brands, in the tags, you'll be seeing a factor called UPF. Just like how you see a SPF on a sunscreen pack, you have UPF tagged in a cloth when you're buying. Okay, so any cloth with UPF 50 or above is safe for UV protection. And ideally, dark and bright colors won't allow UV penetration. They scatter and reflect the UV light. They are safe for protecting your skin from UV exposure. And densely woven fabric like denim, satins, and woolen clothes, they are safe from UV penetration. And loose fitting clothes are good enough for UV protection. So when you're going out on a bright sunny day for a drive, or maybe you have a long journey where you have to travel for a long time under sun, dark clothes, dense fabric, and loose fitting clothes should be the ideal clothing for protecting your skin from UV penetration. Right, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to end up my talk with some myths and facts. Just a couple of minutes. Next slide. So the greatest myth what we face from patients, like whenever we suggest a sunscreen, they would ask whether this would cause cancer. So it is totally a myth. A sunscreen would never cause cancer. Rather than causing a cancer, it would have a protective effect from preventing skin cancers at an older age. Next slide. And the second most common myth what we hear from patients is, if I apply sunscreen, will my vitamin D levels decrease? Definitely not. So there are many studies conducted which show that there is no much significance or no much difference in the control group or plasma trial group, which shows that even when you apply sunscreen, there is no much significant decrease in vitamin D synthesis in people who apply or who does not apply sunscreen. So vitamin D synthesis will not be affected by your sunscreen application. And I would like to add, so for having sufficient vitamin D synthesis in your body, 10 to 20 minute exposure during midday sun, like anytime between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. or more precisely between 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. For 3 to 4 days in a week. I'd like to repeat, 10 to 20 minute exposure in midday sun for 3 to 4 days a week should be sufficient enough for your vitamin D synthesis in normal healthy individuals. Next slide, please. Yes, sir. Yeah, and this I have already told about this point. People would tend to apply sunscreen only when they step out. Most of us tend to skip sunscreen when you're indoors and when it is raining or during winters. So it is a myth. You have to apply sunscreens even when you're indoors, even on a rainy day or cloudy day, and during winter or monsoons. Okay. So next slide, sir. Yes. So sunscreen application will help you maintain healthy, young-looking, flawless skin, and also prevents many sun-related problems like sunburns or aging and signs of freckles. Okay. Thank you.
That is a wonderful lecture, ma'am, Dr. Josna, madam, for giving us on the skin and sun. The topic she has chosen is a need of the hour topic, and it has been of great help for even for medical professionals are now putting on the chat box. There is a lot of information regarding skin and sun for us, even the other medical professionals. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yes.
So now
Thank you.
we go on to the Q&A session for the day. So right now we are at 11:55. We extend the time of the session because it's been very useful for everybody. So we'll go into the Q&A session for the day. So all the speakers be ready for the answers. So when the question is put forward, I've taken a couple of questions. So the one participant asked, cost-effective solution for farmers for excessive sun exposure. What is the cost-effective sunscreen protection we can give for farmers?
Yeah.
So
First thing is clothing. Yes, sir. So as I mentioned earlier, clothing is very important. You have to wear a full sleeve shirt or something like that, which covers your neck also. And if possible, wear a wide brim hat to protect your face and neck. And sunscreen lotions will be ideal for application on a large area where you require only just a small quantity to spread on a large area.
Okay.
So, and they need a higher SPF sunscreen. So we are not supposed to mention brands on this show. So we can, any lotions with SPF 50 and above, along with a wide brim hat and a full covered clothing should be ideal thing for farmers who work under sun.
Okay. Any sunscreens, what is the price range in which it comes, madam, in the market? Lotion? What is the
Lotion,
price
they're
range
available from 350 rupees. They're available from 300 to 500 rupees. So they start from 250 to 300 rupees. They're available, sir.
Okay.
Lotions are preferable for a large area, not the gels and creams.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Is tinnitus curable? Over to Dr. Vijay to answer this question.
Can I share the screen for a minute?
Yeah.
See, tinnitus, it may be because of multiple, many reasons. We have to identify what it is, why it is because of. You can see this flowchart. There are more than 25 to 30 causes for tinnitus. And most common diagnosis will be idiopathic. If you see, everything has idiopathic. That means we don't know why it is because of. So to make the answer very simple, tinnitus, there are reversible causes and irreversible causes like hearing loss. If it is because of irreversible cause, it may not be treatable. Just we have to ignore it. If you are going to put more mind into it, the symptoms will worsen. Especially everybody will be having a little bit of tinnitus because of the age process. And if you are going to be in a quiet room, you'll be hearing a lot of noise. When the noise becomes, that is an internal noise, we say. So that is ambient noise. So that is audible for everyone in the quiet room. When you are entering into a audiology room, when the ambient noise is very low, then you'll be able to hear that noise. So ignore it. And if you are having tinnitus, have a complete checkup and make sure there are so many other reasons like tumors or blood vessels causing tinnitus or hearing loss causing tinnitus, which can be treatable. So make sure there is no major issues and try to ignore it.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you, Dr. Vijay. One question for Dr. Kavita, madam. My daughter is using a lot of online classes. Can I use lubricant like Refresh Tears for the children who are on the screen time for more than 4 hours? Is it okay? Is it advisable?
If your child has symptoms like itching or rubbing of eyes, and then refresh tears can be useful. But otherwise, we shouldn't assume that using refresh tears and a longer hour in front of a monitor without break, and that doesn't solve that. So, but if it helps, it's a lubricant. So,
Okay.
longer time in front of a screen, yeah, it helps if they have
And
itching and others.
one more participant has asked that his child is having some watering of eyes while watching the screen. So in this situation, we can use, right, the lubricant.
Probably, and you have to make sure the other parameters are all taken care of.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So to Dr. Vijay, one question. One participant has asked, 85 decibels of audio using through earpods or AirPods, does it have any impact on the ears? How is it?
Yes, definitely. See, as I told you, AirPods or any Bluetooth device, when we use it for a longer time, it is going to affect your hearing. If, as I told you, 60 minutes a day is admissible. And if you're keeping the volume louder, more than 100 decibel, then definitely you have to reduce the duration. And there are a few more questions like how to tackle for a longer calls and all. So these options like phones which can be connected to your mobile phone will reduce the exposure and the heat generation in the soft tissue. And also you can transfer your calls to a landline phone, which is also less radiation than directly keeping a headphone and speaking for a long time.
You have answered the other question also for the telecallers, I think. Yes. So the telecallers usage of 8 to 10 hours can think about this option of connecting, and they can use it so that the decibel exposure is less. Am I right, sir?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Wonderful. And another person has asked, Dr. Kavita madam, is myopia genetic?
Yes, myopia can be genetic. It's multifactorial. Actually, the cause is multifactorial. Yes, but it's well-established genetic cause is also there. Any refractive error, especially myopia.
Okay.
So, if both parents are myopic, there is a increased chance of a child becoming myopic.
Okay, thank you, madam. Now the question is for Dr. Jyotsna, madam. What precautions should you take for teacher's nodule? I don't know what is teacher's nodule. You can just explain and just tell for the benefit of the other participants.
I think that should be for Vijay Krishnan, sir. It is
okay. I don't know.
What is the question?
What precautions should you take for teacher's nodule?
See, teacher's nodule is basically when they strain a lot continuously, it can make a small swelling in the vocal cord. You can see here, it's the vocal cord, voice box, where it makes a small swelling, which is reversible. When we diagnose early and when we give voice rest, especially for teachers, or it can be singer's nodule, priest nodule. So when we strain our voice, this happens because that is the maximum area of trauma which can happen. So the treatment is voice rest, and the suggestions will be like drinking water in between, keeping the mouth lubricant with water, and if you are going to have 1 hour lecture, give a break for 30 minutes to 1 hour if possible. You should not be continuously speaking in a strained voice. That's all.
One participant has asked, this is for Dr. Jyotsna, one white patches below the eyebrows and also white patches under the arms and skin. Is the skin problem has anything to do with the food habits?
From the symptoms, what they say, it seems to be a vitiligo patch.
Okay.
So unless we are sure of the diagnosis, we can't say whether it is directly related to diet.
Okay.
So if it is vitiligo, it is not related to diet. But I would like to mention something about diet here. Yes, diet has a very good role in sun protection and other skin related conditions. So hydrate yourself very well, take plenty of liquids, and take good amount of antioxidants. Antioxidants in the sense vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E rich foods. All your fruits and fresh uncooked vegetables and nuts, whatever you can have.
One participant has asked, what is the ideal age group for LASIK surgery for myopics? Dr. Kavita, madam.
Ideal age is above 20. So above 20 is why? Because till 18, there is a chance of the power changing due to growth. So after 20, ideal is 20 to 30.
Okay. Madam, I have one more question. In the marketing in the field, they market is something called as blue glasses for radiation reduction or something like that. The sunscreen.
Yeah.
Is it scientifically proven? These blue glasses reduce the.
If it is from a good company, yes, they do have some protection against
screen time exposure.
Screen time, but very minimal protection. We shouldn't assume. I mean, wear that and assume that you can have unlimited screen time.
Kavita
but
madam,
it does have a role.
Okay, Kavita madam asked a question for Dr. Jyotsna. Any natural sunscreen options we have?
Yeah, because farmers won't be able to, and even otherwise,
yes,
I was just thinking if there is any natural sunscreen.
Yes, ma'am. So clothing is one thing.
The face,
colored. For the face, they can apply aloe vera gels, which are freely available in every household. And I would emphasize more on diet rather than topical application, hydration, and all vitamin C rich fruits. Even so, I would prefer recommending fresh seasonal fruits which are locally available, like Indian gooseberry, guava, papaya, which are grown very well in their neighborhood, should be the best diet for a farmer in summer times, which acts as internal sunscreen. They reduce UV-related superoxide dismutase activity, so they reduce free radical damage to the skin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
one more question. A lot of dentists are there in this forum. So they have asked, we have been asked to use UVC light for sterilization of our working area.
Yes,
is it harmful on routine use?
Yes, UVC light is definitely harmful to skin. So sunscreen should be the best protection for that.
Okay. So when you are going for working under UVC light in the operating area, we need to apply sunscreen and go for the entire body or areas which are going to be exposed.
Exposed areas definitely. But if you're wearing a thickly woven fabric cloth, then you can skip your covered areas.
Okay.
As I told you, UVC is not present in our natural atmosphere. It is absorbed by ozone. We have only UVA and UVB in Earth's atmosphere.
And one participant has asked, sometimes in the evening, foot starts getting itching, feeling, and slowly spread over the entire body and become red patches like hives. Is it serious? What will be the treatment?
Yeah, for hives is something which is genetically mediated. So you have to have a skin patch test done. It can be because of food or external factors like sweating, dry skin or something like that. Even some medicines cause this, and even some internal allergies like worm infestation, caries tooth, long-standing infections like sinusitis can aggravate hives. So you have to identify the triggering factor, and avoidance is the only cure for hives. When you don't have any triggering factor, you have to take medication for keeping the symptoms, for preventing the symptoms. Okay?
Madam, for participants who don't know what is hives, can you explain it in Tamil or something like that? Yeah.
I'm poor at Tamil. My mother tongue is Telugu, but still I'll try. So, Dandaganda Tadicha Mari, red, Gandaganda Veengna Mari, red rashes Mari varum.
Okay.
They stay for a few minutes and then they disappear. And they reappear at other areas, like they present at one place, they disappear, and then they present at some other areas like trunk, hands and all. So they're very transient lesions which stay for a few minutes.
Fantastic.
Like how you see after an ant bite or mosquito bite.
Okay. Madam, for you, Dr. Kavita madam, it's a question for you. The squint, what we call it, public call it as cross eyes. Does it have any impact on the vision alone, or is it treated only for appearance?
Definitely, it has impact on vision, especially the squints which children develop. When the younger the age, the higher the chance that vision gets affected. There is a problem called lazy eye or amblyopia. If one eye shows a constant squint from early childhood, the eye which shows the squint can develop a vision problem because of the squint. So squint is to be treated not only for cosmesis, but it can affect vision if not treated early.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. And I'm just checking for any other chat box, for any other questions I left out. Red rash is seen in my daughter's skin with itching sometimes and it disappears after some time. So what is the...
Yeah, in young age, insect bite reaction is the most common thing. And as I told, food allergy can also be one of the reasons. And sometimes even cosmetics, sweating, tight clothing can also cause.
அதுதான் என்ன
Reason for red
அது
mole.
அவனுக்கு வரவே கூடாதுங்கிறானா
Reason for red mole. Participants keep it on audio mute mode.
அப்புறம் அவன் என்ன
Yeah, red rashes, if it is a genetic urticarial rash, it will be recurrent. We can't prevent it permanently. அது வரும் கொஞ்ச நாள் இருக்கும் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட் எடுக்கும்போது குறையும் திரும்பி மறுபடியும் வரலாம். If it is because of a temporary reason like a allergic patch because of mosquito bite or any other local allergen, that will be cured and it is not a recurrent thing.
Reason for red mole, one person has asked. What is a red mole? I don't know. We are not sure.
It can be a port wine stain, hemangioma.
Okay. So that is congenital, right?
Yes, it's a vascular abnormality.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I ask a question to
Yeah.
Dr. Jyotsna?
Yeah.
What
Yes,
about
ma'am,
this superficial scars? Sometimes you have the scratch marks and they leave scars.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Are they
Yeah,
treatable?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. So when you address them early, like within 2 to 3 weeks of trauma, when the wound is fresh, so then scar reducing creams like silicone-based creams and silicone-based gel sheets work really well, and they prevent scarring as such. But when the scar is old, like say more than 3 to 6 months of age, then these creams and gel sheets will have minimal effect. Then the procedures will be lasers or microneedling. Or if the scar is very big, thick and hypertrophic, then scar revision surgeries work really well. Surgery works really well on scars.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Dr. Gopinath has asked for Madam Kavita. For my kid left eye, there is a white layer surrounding the black ball occasionally. It disappears after some time. Again, it appears. May I know the reason? Is it of concern?
If it is associated with itching symptoms, sometimes children who have allergies, they develop this kind of a white kind of a lining in the center. I mean, from the cornea to the conjunctiva, that area. So this is a sign of allergy actually. But if there is no itching and it is going away without any treatment or without any symptoms once or twice, I think you should not have to worry. But if it comes repeatedly, better to have a consultation. But it is a sign of allergy actually.
Okay. One last question for the day. This is for my friend, my schoolmate, Sendil Ramsamy. He is the CTO of Cognizant Technology Solutions. Ma'am, most sunscreens have paraben. Any natural option you have?
Current day sunscreens are totally sulfate and paraben free, sir. So you can, rather than commercial product, go for medicated sunscreen. That is my sincere advice, because medicated sunscreens have active ingredients and they're very well calibrated. So you exactly know what is the concentration of ingredients present in the product, apart from unlike a commercial product. So medicated sunscreens are 99% paraben and sulfate free. So go for a medicated sunscreen.
Okay, thank you. So we end the Q&A session for the day, and I'll just share the screen for the next week presentation. Thank you once again, all the speakers. You have enlightened us very well, and I'll give a short moderator summary for the day. So the moderator summary goes like all the speakers have given stress on diet. A good balanced diet is the need of the hour, and the first speaker, Dr. Kavita Madam, has given that sunscreen screen time for children should not cross more than 4 hours. That's the take for the day. And usage of sunscreen SPF 30 and above by Dr. Jyotsna for sun protection and sun exposure for 10 to 20 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week in the mid-sun. That's another take for the day. And Dr. Vijay Krishnan has said that when using telecalling, you're not 16 to 20 minutes should not cross that much amount when you speak on your mobile phones. Otherwise, it can hamper your hearing. Otherwise, you have to look at other options. And according to the decibels also, it can impact your hearing when you are on the earphones and with loud music. So that's another take for the day. And consanguineous marriage, that is marriage between relatives, can cause hearing loss. And this can also be cured using cochlear implant. So that's another take for the day. And that's the moderator summary for the day. And the upcoming talk for the next week is the Health Pep Talk Series 3 is on mental well-being. This is on 21st June, 11 a.m. at Zoom. And the speakers are stress management by Dr. Sivasailam, a senior consultant psychiatrist from Tuticorin, Rangasamy Nursing Home. And the second speaker is about child rearing. He's specialized in the child psychiatry. He's going to talk about the parental perspective of child rearing. Dr. P.P. Kannan. He's a professor and head of the Department of Psychiatry, Chengalpet Medical College. And he also runs a psychiatric center called Putholi Healthcare in Egmore. And we have the third speaker is going to talk about de-addiction. He runs a de-addiction center at Pondicherry. And Dr. Satyamurthy is the district psychiatrist of the district mental health program, Kadalur. They are all very eminent speakers who have done a lot of, very well versed in their field, especially child psychiatry, stress management, and de-addiction. All there is their forte. So we expect the participants to be there for the next meeting also. And one small request for all the participants is try to log in early so that many have used the chat box to ask questions which have been addressed by the speakers already in their talk. So if you can log in early, you'll be able to get the content much early, and we don't have to put it in the chat box again for repeat. Okay, thank you. And we have the upcoming talks coming up are post-COVID-19 travel and benefits of travel insurance by two speakers. We'll be having it. It's an upcoming talk on 28th June. And thank you all for your participation. And thank you all for being very kind and in your mute mode and with your video off mode. You have been very patiently listening. And stay tuned for the next week's program. And I expect the speaker, and another big thank you again, once again, for the speakers for spending their time with us for this event and in this forum. And thank you, Mr. Srinivasan, the financial planner. And thank you, Mr. Jayaprakash, my friends who are being at the back end supporting me for this program. Thank you and stay tuned.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.